The early signs were just terrible migraines. Eventually got an MRI that revealed like a golf ball sized tumor. The doctor basically told us, in my 20 years of doing this isn't a brain tumor. This started somewhere else, moved to your brain, and then formed this cancerous tumor. I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer when I was 15 years old. I just couldn't even stop thinking, am I gonna die? Like, that was the only thought that crossed my mind. I want to say the migraine started in November of 2012. Every single time I got up, it was like a throbbing headache where something was almost like rattling around in my brain. I would have to hold on to the walls because something was clearly not right. And again, 15 years old, freshman in high school, I thought nothing of it. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell a soul for the first probably 25 days, where I just went 25 straight days, every single day, playing basketball, playing sports, going to the gym, runs, all of that, just by taking 10 Advils a day. I would take 10 Advil a day, do nothing else, and my headache would subside for, maybe a couple of hours, and then I would just re-up on Advil. And we saw 3 different doctors, and it was just, there was nothing wrong. There's nothing visible on the outside that was wrong. And it took my mom, honestly, and like, thank God for intuition, to demand an MRI. She said, okay, we got to see what's going on in the brain. If your head's hurting, we have to get an MRI. So eventually got an MRI that revealed like a golf ball sized tumor in my brain. The first emotion I had was, no way. Like, this, it's just like typical denial. Honestly, I was like, there is no way that that's happening. I ran 2 miles yesterday. I don't believe this is real. Like, that's not my scan up there. Like, there's no way. I kept asking my mom, doctors, everyone, like, am I gonna be okay? I grew up in a household. I was the youngest of 3 boys. I just always had this like gritty mentality where I could do everything myself. I just played this tough guy card to my friends, to my family, to everyone. My parents honestly did a really good job of being that first line of defense for doctors and, kind of filtering my emotions. The first step was getting a brain surgery. Got a resection on that tumor in my cerebellum. Then obviously we did a PET scan and a CT scan and found those little enhancements and those little lesions throughout my body. So in my lung and in my ankle bones. After that visit, where I found out I had stage 4 lung cancer, the options that were given to me were, 1, let's resect half of your right lung. 2, let's do radiation to your right lung. And those are the only 2 options that, I was given. So both options sounded like a nightmare to me. And that's something that I didn't want to do because, again, 15 years old, and I have plans to live till I'm 80, honestly. So everything was done with a long-term solution in mind. I've never one time in my entire journey, taken the advice of one doctor, right? Like, I will always get a second opinion, no matter what. At University of Chicago, we got in touch with the lead oncologist there. He basically was just the out-of-the-box thinker that we wanted. One of the first things that he said, he's like, before we do anything, before we put you through radiation, before we put you through chemo or whatever it is, like, let's freeze your sperm. Like, we want you to at least have the possibility of having kids later. And he was the only oncologist who talked to me like I actually had a future. He did every test on my brain resection and the tumor that we got out of there, and basically found the ALK positive mutation. To have the mutation that I had also ALK positive, it was, like I said, I talked to a ton of oncologists and no one was aware of another case being so young. I didn't grasp the situation. I didn't know what that meant for me, but I am so grateful that I have that mutation, because it let me take a pill every day and then just go back to high school. Yeah, it was life-changing. We had the mindset that I was going to have to go through rounds of chemo, I was going to lose my hair, I was going to have all these side effects, and then we got this solution and just get to take a pill that fights back the mutation that I have, like the cancer mutation I have. It was an absolute miracle, and it allowed me to live my life. If you're going to be diagnosed with lung cancer, it is the best way to go about it and have longevity. In my experience, at least. Obviously, from a convenience standpoint, it's just popping a pill every day. You don't even have to think twice about it. And it's a targeted way to attack cancer cells. And the best way to describe it is, having, like, the typical treatment of cancer is, taking a sledgehammer to kill a fly. And this now gives you a sniper rifle to target and kill the cell. I'm so grateful that, I was blessed with that mutation. Me and my team have done so much research over these last 13 years. You have to have that mentality if you're really looking for longevity. You have to do your own research. I think biomarkers are so important because, again, that's not the typical way that oncologists or doctors are thinking. They're thinking, okay, I see what's in front of me. I see the scans. Let's address those issues. But the biomarkers is something that my mom researched and found out about. To have that discussion with your oncologist. I would hate if your oncologist wouldn't talk about it, to be honest, but it's on the patient sometimes. Like, no one is as close to your situation as you. Like, think about it like this. Like, there's no one's going to make a business decision or give you business advice that is, not in your shoes and care about it as much as you do. Like, if you have a passion about it and you care deeply about it, like, no one's going to care as much as you. At some point, you got to be your biggest advocate. I had a brain surgery when I was 15, and then I had a brain surgery when I was 23, and then I had a brain surgery when I was 24. 5 different treatments of brain radiation, then a radiation treatment to my ankle bone, proton therapy over 12 weeks to my lung, and that's how we addressed the lung tumor. I'm not going to lie to you, there was plenty of times where I felt like giving up, to be honest. And, I was just so fatigued and so exhausted of doing radiation after radiation. And you do this long enough and you find the out of the box thinkers that you need to get in front of and stay close with. So one of my oncologists is that lived here in Nashville at Vanderbilt University, that I ended up seeing a couple of times, told me about this new clinical trial that was being conducted. The phrase clinical trial is, extremely positive in my mind. I think that's, it's all drugs have to start somewhere, obviously, but cutting edge technology and cutting edge scientific, trials that are being a part of. So I was always, happy to do it. And I had to schedule everything myself. I had to be on every call. I had to go to visits myself or with my girlfriend. It was all on my shoulders this time. Like, between that, a full-time job, and all the other stuff that I'm trying to do and, train for marathons, it's a full-time job. I think I would have to go to the hospital for the first cycle, which is like the first 3-4 weeks, 3 times a week. And it would be like 2 hours at a time getting blood work, taking the pill in person and then getting blood work 2 hours later. That part is extremely positive. I'm a very data-driven person where I like so much data thrown at me so I can check every level of everything. So it is extremely positive in that light. And most recently, this year, I actually had 5 different rounds of chemotherapy. The mentality is this, like, you have to have a purpose to live. You have to have things to look forward to. You have to live your life. And, the will to live has to be so strong, because if you lose that, then you're going to stop trying. You're going to stop researching so much. You're going to stop getting the second opinion. And it's not a lazy thing. It's, I'm just so tired. I've never really stopped believing that, I'm going to live till 100. Like, that's just been the overarching mentality. And I'm willing to do anything for it. I think the first decade of my diagnosis, like 15 to 25, I didn't involve anyone. It was just me, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my girlfriend. That was it. Like, wouldn't say a word to anyone else. When you're dealing with cancer for over a decade, it takes a team. It's not just you versus cancer. Like, you need a whole support team. You need to involve your community. You need to involve your friends. Not involving your friends is one of the biggest regrets that I probably have. But I learned, always ask for help. Like, no one's in this alone. There would be a handful of times where I was just searching for answers. I was just filing through Facebook groups and like, has anyone gone through something similar? And that's when I stumbled upon the ALK positive group, to have the actual same mutation and talk about the same drugs and side effects that maybe you were having. The specific like stuff that we were going through, like that part was awesome, and really just validated some of the things that I was going through. Like, there's multiple people in those support groups that I've talked to one-on-one, that just like having real conversations with them, like, okay, how are you navigating stuff? And they were so intrigued by just me talking and me sharing my story. So that was awesome to see, like, how inspirational it felt for other people, and like that gave me fulfillment. Looking back at my journey, there were so many times where I didn't do things because I was like, oh, I have no idea where I'll be in 8 months. Like, I don't want to sign up for that marathon because in 8 months, who knows? My cancer might progress. It just took me so long to learn that, no, like, live your life, live the life that you want to live the best way you can, enjoy every second of it. In that moment, I felt like, obviously, I felt like this is the most tragic thing ever. But today, if you ask me, like, I'll give a totally different answer. It made me grow up so fast. I'm getting emotional now, but it made me grow up so fast, and I just learned so much about myself and, the harsh reality of the world. So I started running because, if you can't tell, I'm like, there's a fire in the middle of my soul. Like, I'm extremely competitive. Like, I want to find a way to compete at all times. And that was kind of just the next progression where, I'd be seeing these people running marathons and, running 5Ks or 10Ks. And I wanted to find a way to compete. I read a bunch of books and listened to a bunch of podcasts and motivational videos when I was in some of the darkest times of my life. And, one of those books was written by David Goggins. So funny enough, Goggins called me after one of my marathons and was like, I heard your story. The last 2 marathons I ran is Chicago, New York, and fundraised for Lurie Children's Hospital, which is the hospital where I got my first brain surgery as a 15-year-old. So just a full circle moment for me. I'm so proud. That kid went through a lot, and just, put his head down and, just kept pushing, and, did all the treatments, all the clinical trials, all the doctor's visits, and never let that affect him, at school, sports. Like, it just became, one thing in my everyday life. And you can have a victim's mentality, and it's warranted. Like, it's 100% validated for you to feel that way. But it's never the way I felt. And that kid was so mentally strong, and I'm so proud that that's how I dealt with everything. It's truly gives me hope today. Learn to love the journey and embrace it all, and live in the moment. live your life as best as you can, and live the life that you want. Tell the story that you want, right? Like when you're done on this planet, be proud of the story that you wrote.